Good afternoon to all. This is going to be a very short session and hopefully should be very informative. So first we want to just briefly introduce, we are the Technology Innovation Hub of IIT Madras. And why are we here? Because we have something known as technology development, where we try to get some indigenous technologies developed for our country. One such initiative is ShaktiDB. Why we went into this, etc. I'll just briefly explain to you. The question that we wanted to answer was, can a nation like India, which operates as India's scale, so we will define what is India's scale of operation, provide a very critical infrastructure, a IT infrastructure, which is open, extensible, and you can also have a technology that is developed by your own, which is also auditable. So open source straight away becomes auditable because you can look at what it provides. So before I go into this, let me just briefly explain to you what we are talking about, what I mean by India scale. So let me start somewhat a little bit of history, then we'll come to what is happening currently. During COVID, many of you would have used CoWIN, right? And you know the database is the India's population. So that's the minimal that you are expecting to have, which is 1.2 billion at that time or whatever it is. Now, no one knows there was a backend to this COVID called Itihas. How many of you know about this? It was called Itihas. And this was actually used to predict where COVID will spread. We called it as hotspots, so that vaccines could be logistically moved to those locations. Because we had a gap of 14 days. If you remember, they said that after the 7th day, the COVID will start spreading. So you had to do the operations within the 7th day. So for that, you needed to have a statistics of when the 14th day, where the hotspot will happen. And if you remember, during that period, there were some agitations also that was organized in Delhi. I don't know how many of you remember this. So imagine if we had not had such a backend tool, what would have happened? Because if you remember, in some of the states, especially Ahmedabad, they used to vaccinate people on some under the bridges, near the signals. I do not know whether you know about those things. Okay? You know, this was actually done with the help of a database at the back end, which was Postgres. Okay? Many of you, there was only one newspaper that covered that. That was Indian Express. Okay? Just take a look at it. Search for Itihas. Probably they would have taken it now also. So that is India's population scale. Okay? Now, coming to the current situation, you all know about Open Network for Digital Commerce, which is our UPI transactions. Just take a look at how many transactions happens every month, every day. Okay? Now, this is what we call it as population scale. Now, what does this imply? That means you should have a lot of concurrent connections that are coming to your database, right? So if you are looking at IRCTC ticket booking or any other application that we are using, you have to manage millions of simultaneous connections. And especially Tatkal, okay, many of us talk about Tatkal, oh, not working. So you should have an excellent connection management mechanism that you have to embed with your database software. Okay, the second one is IRCTC actually gives you a burst load. Okay, in electrical engineering, you call it as the unit response. Okay, there is a sharp spike and then you see how the circuit responds. A similar example happens with our databases. Okay, so burst heavy transaction is another pattern that we expect out of the Indian workloads. Okay, the third one that comes is, okay, we want our native language. The data has to be stored within India. The new acts that come upon, many of these acts and rules are framed by people who have never touched databases. Okay, so they're so confusing. So converting those policies, which are utopia, and bringing it to a database is a tremendous effort. Okay, I mean, let me bet you this. Okay, so a lot of policies such as encryption should be there. Okay, fine. You just say that encryption should be there, but if you are, I'm using a single vendor. Should I have both encryption from the same vendor, or should I split hardware from one vendor and software for other vendor? But the policy says that, okay, you should have encryption. So how do you interpret this, okay, and bring it? So this is another portion, and acts like DP, DPA, and all these acts are very confusing. RBI guidelines, they are given to you every week. I mean, you should see many of the SEBI guidelines. So how do you ensure that these are implemented and absorbed very quickly? Okay, so these are all some of the things. And the last one, okay, UPI. Imagine when we are using MasterCard and Visa card, okay, every transaction they charged you some amount. UPI you want free, okay, there's nothing free, okay. When banks charge, okay, oh, banks are charging so much, okay. Even if UPI, they charge a single paise per transaction, let me tell you, I mean, we can reduce our income tax by half, okay, but we don't want to pay for UPI. Okay, 600, I think there are about 21 billion transactions that happen. 1 paise per transaction, leave it. Okay, can't we give 1 paise for the country? Okay, that's another story, but I'm just saying the amount of transactions that are happening. Okay, and we are very extremely cost sensitivity for cost. I think we always want the lowest price thing in everything. Okay, so now that's the first part. Okay, what does India says? Now let me now bring Postgres. So can Postgres suit this picture? Okay, it's not just Postgres alone, because we need to have something more for India scale deployments. The basic architecture of Postgres is fantastic, no doubt about it. Okay, data integrity, ACID compliance, it's all great. Okay, the second thing is the modular and the extensible architecture of Postgres. Okay, and it has a very vibrant ecosystem. I mean, today morning they showed that an open source software being so vibrant, they showed that this is one of the best, the top leading open source. Yes, let's go for it. Okay, and there was a talk about the planner that Dr. Jayant Harista talked about, how they were optimizing using Postgres, how you can optimize and get. So there's so much of scientific literature available, plus our work that are available, which can help improve performance of Postgres, which directly translates to our first problem, where can we take this much of workload, and how we can improve the performance. Yes, that satisfies the first problem. Okay, so this essentially means that you need to have very high concurrency, horizontally scale across nodes, okay, workload orchestration, all these. Not only that, your Postgres works right from your relational database to JSON interfaces. So you have this kind of a support that is available. What should be added to that, okay, is very simply audit trails, and these are regulatory grade, because you need to follow the banking SEBI rules, RBI governance rules, etc. Okay, that audit trails, this has to be strengthened. The second thing that you have to do is a native distributed, so as I told you, the horizontal scaling and all those things have to be satisfied, and high concurrency. So if I can bring in these features within Postgres, I think we are ready for a India scale deployment. One more thing that we should also look at is management console. Because when I'm going to go for these kind of deployments, I'm going to have thousands of nodes working, and I need to have a single integrated view of what is happening at different places. Okay, so these become the very, very fundamental requirement for us, and that's exactly what we are doing with ShaktiDB. So what is ShaktiDB? Okay, so it is not just a fork. We have studied the Indian ecosystem. We have studied the problems of the Indian ecosystem, and we are providing solutions based on that. First one, security and encryption. Okay, we have complete control over security and encryption because we are using security first design, okay, with encryption, and most important thing, as I told you, the last part of it, auditing, tamper evident auditing. Okay, that's something that we provide with as a base functionality. Remember, whatever I talked to you is the base functionality for Indian requirement. After that, you can have more workloads. Okay, because why we can have more workloads? Because many of these ONDC are now being given to countries like Sri Lanka and other places. Okay, that's the first part. Second part, distributed performance at the population scale. Okay, so this is a fundamental requirement, and we satisfy these requirements. Okay, just take a look at our website. You can talk to our engineering team who are there. And for very critical sectors, especially financial sectors, today you see the war becomes economic war. Okay, downing ships, the country can still survive. But when you hit a medical factory, you are finished. When you hit RBI, you are finished. Okay, there are leaks, zero-day exploits that are possible with existing databases. Okay, so we have to ensure that these kind of things don't occur in an India version-based databases. So as I told you, unified operations and control. This is a administrative requirement, I would say. Okay, from a user point of view, a database administrator managing the databases, he needs all that. So ShaktiDB integrates encryption, auditability, compliance-oriented configurations in many of the financial sectors. And you can do it in a consistent and verifiable way, because we follow from the policy to implementation. It's not just an add-on that we put into your database systems. Okay. The most important part of after this is you have to see when you have distributed semantics, okay, basically distributed workloads, then you have to have certain Postgres semantics, okay, Postgres preserving semantics, because I don't want to go beyond, I don't want to give something that is new, that is not following the rules of Postgres. Okay, that is something we are providing along with ShaktiDB. And long-term audit trails satisfying all our DPDA acts, those are all integrated into ShaktiDB. So you don't have to reinvent these again and again. The last most important thing is, okay, you have done everything. Who is going to support us? So I think support becomes a very big question for these kind of open sources. So this is where IITM Pravartak technology plays a role, because we are actually a seed-funded organization. We are a seed-funding organization. Okay, we have got 52 startups, and Tutor Hyperloop is one of the startups which now is there. So we have about 52 startups, out of which 12 are on their own way. And we have now got service-based startups which can work on ShaktiDB. Okay, so these startups, we are funding them. There are certain rules how you can become our startups. Okay, we will fund you so that you can survive by supporting Shakti database and even taking it and modifying it to your customers' needs. Okay, because many of these, some of the features of Shakti database are going to be in open source. Many of the features are going to be in open source, which you can even try it out. Okay, so what is the takeaway that we want you to do? Okay, one, Indian scale is real. Okay, you can't buy a product and then go back to the customer saying that, look, you are not meeting our performance needs. Okay, and then he will come back and say, if I want this performance, pay me this much dollars extra. Okay, that's the reality. Okay, that's the first part of it which we are trying to avoid. Burst patterns, localizations, these are all Indian needs. No other country has this kind of a requirement. Okay, the second one is Postgres is fantastic. Okay, it's definitely extensible. We have proven it to be extensible. We have been proving it again and again and again. But we don't have a unified organization that can show that, yes, Postgres is so good for Indian needs. Okay. The third one is ShaktiDB's commitment. We are not looking at it as just a product where I will sell and get away. Please be part of our ecosystem. Okay, if you have an idea, if you can think that you can work on India scale, you have an idea, please work with us. Okay, we are a not-for-profit, but we make our startup companies profitable. Okay, so that's our slogan. Okay, we are just catalyzing innovation. And what we are also promising is that, we will share our learnings with the community. Okay, already we have answered many of the queries from the community. So we understand what this is about, okay? And we understand the Postgres architecture now quite well. So we can even expand that, and we want to support Postgres back again, because they are the ones who are giving it something that India scale, and we'll give it back again. And cost is not a problem, as you know, in Postgres. So that's one of the reasons that we are here. You could actually walk into our stall here, just next to this door. And you can have your intent on whether you want to contribute, you want to participate with us, or you want to say, be a spectator or a user, we are fine with it. Okay, and one more thing I just want to say is we have some goodies available. There is going to be a quiz outside, okay, one during the lunch period and also during the coffee break. Please participate in the quiz, look at India-specific requirements, India-specific needs, and contribute back to Postgres again. Okay, this is what I have. Any questions, I'm free to answer.